All right, so today we're diving into some pretty cool imagery in the Yi Jing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know how it uses all these like metaphors and symbols?
Uh-huh.
Well, it describes Qian,
Okay.
this idea of humility, like a mountain
Okay.
hidden beneath the earth.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
Right. I know you've been exploring Eastern philosophy
Yeah.
and this 15th hexagram Qian.
Okay.
It's packed with wisdom that I think is still super relevant today.
I think so, too.
So we have our Yi Jing expert here with us to help us unpack it all.
Awesome.
Not just the literal translations,
Yeah.
but like the deeper meaning behind Qian, you know?
Absolutely.
This idea of modesty and humility and how it plays out in our lives, like in Lover.
Yeah.
Health, wealth, even how we handle disagreements.
Right.
So first things first,
Oh, yeah.
What's the big idea behind Qian? What's the core message it's trying to get across?
Qian is all about embracing humility and modesty as pathways to success and fulfillment in life.
Yep.
It's not about putting yourself down,
Right.
but more about recognizing your inherent worth
Okay.
without the need to brag or show off.
I see. It's like that idea of empty valley hiding jade.
Exactly.
It's interesting how the source emphasizes that true value.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be shouted from the rooftops.
Right. Like, it's almost a paradox, right?
Uh-huh.
The source material you shared describes it as precious jade hidden in an empty valley.
Wow.
It's a beautiful way to illustrate the power of inner worth.
Yeah.
It's this whole philosophy of maintaining humility when interacting with the world. You know, in a world that often seems to reward those who are the loudest and flashiest.
Yeah, totally.
Qian encourages us to develop that inner strength and let our actions do the talking.
It makes you wonder if all that outward showing off is maybe compensating for a lack of inner substance.
That's a really interesting thought.
Yeah.
And the Yi Jing actually speaks to the outcomes of embracing this inward focus. There's that intriguing oracle. Heaven bestows a pouch of gold upon the poor who don't have to fight over it, as it's enough to be shared between two.
What a powerful image.
Right.
How do you interpret that in the context of Qian?
It really gets to the heart of abundance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This idea that when we approach life with humility,
Okay.
we move away from that scarcity mindset that need to compete and hoard resources.
Right.
It's about being open to collaboration and sharing, which ultimately benefits everyone involved.
So it's not just about being humble as an individual,
No.
but also about how we interact with others and the world around us.
Precisely.
Oh, yep.
Qian suggests that this approach can lead to positive outcomes in various aspects of life. The Yi Jing specifically mentions things like marriage travel, even business partnerships,
Wow.
all benefiting from this approach.
So instead of seeing modesty as some outdated virtue, we can look at it as a practical tool
Absolutely.
that can positively impact our lives.
Exactly. And the source material even gets into specifics.
Oh, yeah.
Like when it comes to love,
Okay.
it advises sincerity and modesty will yield positive results, emphasizing the importance of genuine connection over superficial displays.
That makes a lot of sense. You can't build a strong foundation on pretense.
Right. And when it comes to health, the Yi Jing brings up a potential recurrence of old ailments,
Oh, no.
particularly in the abdomen or back.
Interesting.
However, even with this caution, the overall outlook remains positive.
Okay.
It seems to suggest taking care of yourself without getting overly anxious.
So it's about finding that balance, that middle path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's also this interesting bit about lost items being difficult to find
Oh, okay.
and the possibility of theft.
Oh, wow.
This one seems a bit darker.
Yeah.
How does that tie in with humility?
That's a good question. I'm curious about that, too.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
It could be interpreted as a warning against getting too attached to material possessions. Maybe when we cling too tightly, we become more susceptible to loss or theft,
Okay.
whether literally or metaphorically.
Interesting.
It's almost like Qian, in this context, encourages us to recognize the impermanence of material things
Yeah.
and not let them define our self-worth.
It's fascinating how Qian can be applied to so many different areas of life.
It is.
It's like a framework for thinking about the world.
And the Yi Jing goes even deeper, offering specific examples of how humility leads to positive outcomes
Okay.
in its interpretation of each original line.
Oh, right, those lines.
Yeah,
They're so cryptic, but also incredibly intriguing.
they are. There's one that reads, modesty, successful progress. The superior man brings things to a conclusion. It emphasizes that humility is an active force driving us towards positive outcomes.
I love the line about a modest gentleman who wades through a great river will have good fortune too.
Yes.
It feels so symbolic, like it's saying, even with obstacles, humility helps us persevere.
That's exactly it. That great river can symbolize any challenge we face in life. And the modest gentleman with his humility is able to navigate through it, emerging stronger on the other side.
So it's not that humble people don't encounter difficulties, but they approach them with a different mindset.
Precisely. Humility fosters a calmness and resourcefulness that allows you to find solutions instead of getting stuck in blame or frustration.
I'm starting to see how this Qian concept really plays out in practical ways. But there's one line that has me scratching my head. Not rich, but benefits his neighbors.
Yeah.
How can someone who isn't wealthy benefit those around them?
That's a brilliant question, and it cuts to the core of what Qian is all about.
Okay.
True wealth isn't about money or possessions, but about the richness of your spirit.
So things like kindness, generosity, compassion, those are the real riches.
Exactly. And even if you don't have material wealth, those qualities can still enrich the lives of those around you.
You know, it's like that saying, it's better to give than to receive.
Yes, and that spirit of giving stems from a place of humility. When you're humble, you realize that we're all connected, and our actions have a ripple effect.
It's not about what you have, but what you do with it.
You got it. And this is such a powerful message, especially in a world that often measures success by material wealth.
Okay, this is all starting to click into place for me.
Good.
It seems like humility, this Qian concept, is more than just a moral virtue.
Right.
It's like a powerful tool for navigating life, achieving goals, building relationships, maybe even creating a more harmonious world.
I love how you put that.
Yeah.
Qian is definitely a force that can have a profound impact on our lives.
But the big question is, how do we translate this into practice? It's one thing to intellectually grasp Qian, but how do we actually live it out in our daily lives?
That's the journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one we'll continue exploring.
Well, I'm ready to continue down this Qian path.
Me too. Let's pick up where we left off with the hidden mountain imagery and see where it leads.
Sounds like a plan.
So we've talked about this incredible potential for humility to bring positive change to our lives.
Absolutely.
But what's really fascinating is the Yi Jing doesn't just say, hey, be humble.
Right.
It gives us like this framework for understanding how this principle works in different situations.
So it's like a guidebook for putting humility into practice.
Exactly. And remember that image of the mountain hidden beneath the earth.
Yeah. For sure.
The source explains that this imagery represents a mountain that rightfully belongs above ground.
Okay.
But now lies beneath, symbolizing the virtue of modesty.
So it's not about downplaying our strengths or hiding our talents,
right,
but rather about rooting them in a solid foundation of humility.
That's it. Think of a tree with deep roots.
Oh, okay.
The stronger those roots are, the taller and more resilient the tree can grow.
I see.
It's the same with humility.
Okay.
It allows our talents and accomplishments to flourish without feeding our ego.
And this ties back to the concept of good fortune that the Yi Jing talks about.
Yep.
It says a promising and auspicious future awaits as long as any trace of arrogance is removed.
Exactly. You're picking up on the key themes here.
Yeah.
It's almost as if arrogance creates this blockage, preventing good fortune from flowing. Humility, on the other hand, clears the path, allowing positive energy to flow freely.
So it's not about denying our achievements.
No.
But acknowledging them without letting them inflate our sense of self-importance.
Right.
It's about recognizing the role that other people, and maybe even a bit of luck, have played in our success.
Yes, exactly. And that's a subtle but really crucial point.
Okay, so we have this visual of the hidden mountain, this concept of good fortune flowing freely when arrogance is removed. But how does this translate into concrete actions in the real world?
Well, the Yi Jing, being a guidebook of sorts, offers further guidance through the interpretations of its individual lines.
Oh, okay.
Each line gives us a different perspective on how humility plays out in various situations.
Can we look at the one that says, a modest gentleman who wades through a great river will have good fortune?
Absolutely. The image of the great river is often used to symbolize the challenges and obstacles we face in life.
Okay.
The modest gentleman, armed with his humility, is able to navigate these treacherous waters and reach the other side successfully.
So humble people don't necessarily have it easier,
right,
but they have a different approach to dealing with difficulties.
Exactly. Humility gives us this inner strength, this resilience, to stay calm and resourceful in the face of adversity.
Okay.
It allows us to focus on finding solutions instead of getting bogged down in frustration and blame.
It's like humility gives us the tools to weather the storms of life.
Yeah.
To stay the course even when the going gets tough.
I love that analogy. It's
Yeah.
like having an inner compass that guides us through those stormy waters.
And there's that other line, making known modesty brings good fortune.
Mm.
What's your take on that one?
Well, that line highlights the importance of expressing humility outwardly, not just keeping it bottled up inside.
Yeah.
It's about being sincere and genuine in our interactions with others.
So it's not just about having humble thoughts,
Well,
but letting that humility be reflected in how we communicate and interact with people.
exactly. When we genuinely express humility, it builds trust and fosters deeper connections.
Okay.
It's like saying, I'm confident in what I bring to the table, but I also recognize that I don't have all the answers.
Right.
This reminds me of a time when I was working on a project with a colleague
Okay.
who was incredibly knowledgeable in their field,
Mm-hmm.
but they also had this remarkable humility about them.
Interesting.
They were always open to hearing different perspectives and acknowledged when they didn't have the answer.
Okay.
It created this really collaborative environment where everyone felt comfortable sharing their ideas.
That's a great example. It sounds like their humility actually made them a more effective leader.
Yeah.
It's so different from that my way or the highway approach that some people take.
Exactly. Arrogance often shuts down communication and creates barriers,
Yeah.
whereas humility opens up doors and creates a space for collaboration.
Okay, I can see how humility plays a crucial role in building strong relationships.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between being confident and recognizing that you don't have a monopoly on the truth.
Right. And it's about being open to learning from others,
Yeah.
allowing yourself to be challenged, and ultimately growing as a person.
It seems like we need to shift from a mindset of winning an argument to one of understanding and connecting with the other person.
Yes. And this ties back to what we were discussing earlier about conflict resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the advice about seeking swift resolution and avoiding delays?
Yes, it's about not letting things fester.
Right. And that's where humility comes in.
Okay.
It helps us let go of that need to be right all the time,
Yeah,
to apologize when we're wrong, and to forgive others when they make mistakes.
right.
It's about choosing peace over ego, even when it's hard.
I can definitely relate to that. It's so easy to get caught up in proving your point, but that rarely leads to a positive outcome.
It rarely does. And Qian reminds us that harmony and understanding are ultimately more valuable than holding on to grudges or resentment.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense to me.
Good.
But isn't there a time and place for assertiveness? You know, standing up for ourselves when it's necessary?
That's a really important point. Humility isn't about being a pushover or letting people walk all over you.
Right.
It's about knowing your worth and expressing it in a way that's respectful and considerate of others.
So it's not about being passive,
No.
but about choosing your battles wisely
Exactly.
and approaching them with a sense of balance and perspective.
Interestingly, the Yi Jing touches on this idea in the line, advantageous to undertake military action, nothing is not beneficial.
Oh, wow.
It suggests that even in situations of conflict, humility can be a source of strength and strategic advantage.
So even in the midst of conflict, humility can play a positive role.
It seems so. It's about approaching conflict with a clear head and a humble heart, allowing you to assess the situation objectively. See beyond your own ego and consider other perspectives. This allows for decisive action when needed, but always with a sense of purpose and restraint.
So it's about knowing when to stand your ground and when to seek compromise. Humility can help guide us through those decisions.
It's all about finding that sweet spot between assertiveness and humility.
Oh, okay. I'm really starting to see how this all connects.
Me too. And, I think it's time we revisit that line that sparked a lot of curiosity earlier.
Which one?
Not rich, but benefits his neighbors.
Yeah.
How can someone who isn't wealthy be of benefit to others?
Yes. Let's delve into that one. It feels like a paradox.
It does, doesn't it? But I think this line speaks to the very essence of Karen.
Okay.
You see, true wealth is not measured in possessions or money, but in the richness of our spirit.
So you're talking about the intangible qualities we bring to the table.
Yeah.
Things like kindness, generosity, compassion.
Exactly. Even if someone lacks material wealth, they can still enrich the lives of others through their actions and attitude.
Right.
There are countless examples of this in the world.
Yeah.
Just think about all the volunteers who dedicate their time and energy to helping others. They may not be wealthy in a financial sense, but they contribute so much to their communities.
It's like the saying, it's better to give than to receive.
Yes.
It's about sharing what we have, whether it's time skills or just a listening ear.
That's it. And that spirit of giving has its roots in humility, When we're humble, we recognize our interconnectedness,
Okay.
that our actions have a ripple effect on those around us.
This reminds me of something you mentioned earlier, that arrogance creates blockages,
Yeah.
while humility opens up pathways. Maybe that generosity of spirit is one of the pathways that Qian opens up.
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah.
It's like Qian helps us shift from a me perspective to a we perspective.
Okay.
We stop focusing solely on our own needs and desires and become more attuned to the needs of those around us.
Oh, okay. This has been incredibly insightful.
Okay.
I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of Qian
Yeah.
and its potential to transform not just individual lives,
Mm-hmm.
but also communities and maybe even the world as a whole.
I'm so glad to hear that. And what's exciting is that we're just scratching the surface.
Ah.
There's so much more to explore in the Yi Jing.
Well, I'm eager to keep going.
Okay.
But I think it's time we take a quick pause to let all this new information sink in.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in a moment to explore the practical applications of Qian in our daily lives.
All right, so we're back.
Yes.
And I'm still thinking about all these insights about Qian,
Me too.
but how do we actually apply this to our lives?
Right.
You know, I get that humility is this powerful force,
Yeah.
but making it a part of my daily routine,
Mm-hmm.
that's a little daunting, to be honest.
I hear you cultivating humility. It's a journey, not a quick fix.
Right.
You don't just become a master of Qian overnight.
But the Yi Jing does offer some practical guidance,
Okay, good.
concrete steps we can take to move in the right direction.
Okay, so what are some Qian hacks?
Qian hacks.
Yeah. You know, like a user's guide for humility.
Okay, well, maybe going back to that image of Empty Valley hiding jade,
Okay.
it's about acknowledging your inner value without needing constant external validation.
So less about broadcasting our accomplishments,
Right.
more about focusing on developing our inner strengths.
Yes, shifting our focus inward.
Okay.
What are your core values?
Mm.
What are you passionate about? What brings you purpose and joy?
Right.
These things define who you are, not your job title or social media likes.
It's like a return to authenticity, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Focusing on what truly matters.
And another practice is being mindful of how we communicate.
Okay.
Remember, making known modesty brings good fortune.
Yeah.
Speak your truth clearly, respectfully.
Mm.
Don't try to dominate or prove you're superior.
No. So listening as much as we speak,
Yes.
open to other viewpoints,
Huge part of it.
even if they challenge our own.
Humility requires acknowledging that we don't have all the answers.
Right.
It's about being open to learning from others, allowing our own thinking to be challenged, and embracing the opportunity for growth.
So letting go of that need to be right.
It's exact.
It's about connection and understanding, not winning every argument.
That brings us back to conflict resolution,
Right.
seeking swift resolution, avoiding delays.
Seems like that would require a lot of self-awareness.
It does. You need to recognize when your ego is getting in the way
Okay.
and have the humility to apologize when you're wrong and forgive others when they mess up.
It's choosing peace over ego,
You got it.
even when it's tough.
Harmony in our relationships is more valuable than resentment or grudges.
It all makes sense, but putting it into practice is the challenge.
That's true. Humility is not a destination, it's a journey,
Right.
a lifelong process, striving to be better, acknowledging imperfections and our constant need for growth.
Like building a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets.
That's a great analogy. And the Yi Jing reminds us, the more we practice humility, the stronger it becomes.
Okay.
As we embody Qian, we experience those positive outcomes, deeper relationships, more purpose in our work, and inner peace.
So it's not just about being a good person.
Yeah.
It's about creating a more meaningful and joyful life for ourselves and others.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
Humility is not about self-denial or sacrificing our ambitions.
Right.
It's about approaching life with balance, recognizing that true happiness stems from connecting with our authentic selves
Okay.
and living in harmony with the world.
This has been so thought-provoking.
Got
I
it.
have a completely new understanding of Qian
I'm so happy to hear that.
and how it can impact my life.
And this is just the start.
Wow.
There's so much more to explore.
I know you've been studying this for years.
I have.
What's your personal takeaway from Qian and what resonates with you the most?
You know what, that empty valley hiding jade metaphor, it reminds me that true value lies within not in external validation or achievements. It's about staying grounded in who I am amidst the noise of the world.
That's beautiful. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Qian, the 15th hexagram of the Yi Jing.
It's been a pleasure.
We've explored the power of humility,
Yes.
from its representation as a hidden mountain to its practical applications in our relationships, work, and lives.
Absolutely.
But before we go, we want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
If Qian is about recognizing our inherent worth without needing external validation, what are some ways you can cultivate that empty valley, hiding jade mentality in your own life?
Good question.
What hidden strengths or unique talents can you nurture and share with the world in your own authentic way?
Think about that.
Keep those questions in mind and let the wisdom of Qian guide you.
Yeah.
Until next time, stay curious, stay humble, and keep diving deep.